Universal signals for commissioners. Yes, I don't know, no. So
I've
there
got
we
a few
are.
extra. I lived in Italy. There you go. I've got some cute ones.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay.
We are at 5, but Commissioner Goldthorpe,
She's
if
calling.
you don't mind holding for a second until we can get Commissioner Pickering online.
I'm glad not to be the only one who has.
Stacy, do you have a text or
Issues.
email back to her yet?
She's going via phone too.
Okay.
She's dialing.
No. We can't.
Hmm?
Excuse me? Say again? Am I good? Right. Do we need to start over on this? Again?
So we're making sure that the auditorium, but she can hear.
You can hear us, right, Alexis? Well, we were telling her to call. It's just,
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed
By silence.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 10 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded.
How about now?
Commissioner Pickering, can you hear us now? Now? How about now? Was that a yes?
you can hear us? Oh,
Okay, if we lose you again, I already shared this with the other commissioners, the Universal Commission sign language is you agree, you are maybe, you think it sucks. And such, so,
I once
so-
brought signs to that effect.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to use that one. And such. So, Commissioner, Mr. President, Commissioners, we are at 5 o'clock.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Ada County Highway District to our work session before our commission meeting. The only thing we're going to be discussing on the work session is a continuation of our budget review considerations. And this in light of new information, new data, new numbers, new potential levy, the whole 9 yards concerning what we talked about last week. And it may or may not shed a different light on what we discussed or how anyone thinks about it. But I'd like to have Christine, if you could be on deck for questions. We have a lot of full color information on the different options and what the potential,
Mr. President?
yes.
Before we get going, there's been a lot of information going back and forth, and so just in the interest of time and with the commission meeting ahead of us, if we don't get everything nailed down, can we just reconvene? this
Oh, yeah,
work
we've
session
got that
after?
worked out already.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
We will end this discussion at 5:30 to begin our pre-commission meeting and reconvene after our regular commission meeting if we need to.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, you can come back up, Christine. Thank you. In light of the additional information that we have and pretty pictures and graphs and everything else, please, commissioners, would you ask any questions that you have about what you've got in front of you?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I have a question for Christine, and I guess basically it would be nice if we could get one of those charts put up that shows basically what is the impact to the, property tax portion of our budget with each of these options now, and starting with option 4 and going on down. It's my understanding now that the option 4 number comes down to a property tax change of about 10%. Is that correct? And then the others are a little different. I'd like to be able to see that and discuss that specifically if we could.
Yeah, I went back and put them all on all the options because they didn't list that on those handouts. So you don't have to flip back and forth.
It's interesting to me anyway, what the short as well as long-term effects of the new numbers might make on our capital projects, maintenance, community programs, everything. I think Commissioner McKinney last week said it most appropriately that any direction we went, we were just digging ourselves a hole. And now with the lower levies, the impacts are all more severe than we thought.
So President Goldthorpe,
Yes.
the discussion that we had last week, and we reached the consensus to take the foregone option off the table. Are you saying now we're back to discuss the 24%? That calculus hasn't changed. So,
The effect on our property taxes has changed quite a bit.
yes,
Yes.
but the discussion that we had, that was just a bit much, and we elected not to have that option. So is it just option 1 through 5, or are we going to be revisiting the foregone option?
We're going to be revisiting everything as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad we're going to be continuing. I have a lot of questions as well.
That would be great for me if I weren't exceedingly nearsighted. Not exceedingly, but anyway,
How about looking down? Looking down.
Maybe I can.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay, yeah, that works. All right.
Guys, I can't see it on the screen.
Yeah, you're not sharing your screen. Okay.
Do we have this as an electronic document? That's what you're doing? Okay, great. So we should have it for you soon, Commissioner Pickering. Well, Mr. President, while we're sitting here kind of waiting for a moment, I do have a number of remarks I'd like to make, and I try to avoid making long-winded speeches from this platform. But after our meeting last week, I had quite a number of thoughts that I think it's worth discussing. So if there's time, my little speech may take 5 or 10 minutes, I don't know. So if we have time for it now, or I could wait until later. Because
Well, I would definitely ask your questions now. Because someone will be taking notes.
Well, really, the only one question I have is this: these proposed tax increases. None of that is a one-time thing. Those are all ongoing, right?
No, some of them sunset.
Well, and that's my question. I'd like to know which ones. And I think, is it correct that the option 4 includes some that sunset? But
Yes.
3, 2, and 1 do not. Is that correct?
I know 4 did. We'll talk.
Okay,
Christine will
because
answer
I'd like
that.
to know exactly where those are. It would be good to know that because, of course, the taxpayers would want to know that, this part of it is a one-time only, this part of it is ongoing. So as soon as Christine gets back, we can go into that.
I guess one comment I would like to make for our next budget session, I know Commissioner McKinney would like to get started on that right away. So when we close the book on this one,
On the
I would like
25th.
to start as soon as possible where we're having actual commissioner discussions. And like when we have a work session, we could sit at that table over there like they do at the cities. We're looking at one another. So we have more of a communication going here. Of course, they'd be open to the public, so the public would be here. But here, it's just kind of, we're being presented to, we're asking a question, and I think we all want to get a little bit more involved in the whole budget. And so I would recommend having some actual work sessions where the commissioners are sitting down there and we're engaged in the budget and sharing of ideas. I think that would be beneficial to know what everybody's thinking.
Start what, in September or something?
This fall,
Okay.
because there's a lot to discuss, and I think there's some things we might want to try and streamline and sharpen our pencil. And but anyway, I think those are beneficial to have all the commissioners there talking and sharing ideas.
You wouldn't want to do it kind of like we do in joint meetings with the city councils? Okay.
I'm unprepared. Thank you for your patience. All right. Do you have a specific question? I don't know if you were speaking while I was getting my laptop. I don't know what you said.
Yeah, we were. I apologize. One of the questions I had was I think it would be helpful to looking at each of these options, and primarily I'm thinking in terms of option 4 because that's kind of where we landed as a top end in our discussions last time. But in any event, what portion of these tax increases are essentially permanent, ongoing, and which of them are a one-time thing? That is to say, because I'm sure, voters will want to know, if it's doing this year, is it going to be this much in perpetuity on an ongoing basis, or is some of this a one-time thing and only this portion continues forever? That's what I'd like to know.
Mr. President, Commissioner McKinney, so within the option 4 property tax certification that's estimated at $46.3 million, that I hope is the same number there. Okay. Is 3% increase, which is allowed by state statute.
And that's an ongoing thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing with your property tax certification, as I stated last time, is at any time the commission can lower their property tax certification. And then it's the greatest of the last 3 years. So if the commission elects to lower it for 3 years, then that'll be the new base. If you lower it and then in 2 years you decide you want to go back to what you were in 2022, you can do that. So like Ada County right now is reducing their property tax certification proposed by $8 or $12 million. But they could still have the opportunity to go back and certify that higher amount depending on that.
Okay.
Okay. So that is something that's an option. The new construction rule is about $1.2 million. Now, that is an estimate through House Bill 389. The limits were put on there for 90% of new construction, which right now is about $2.3 billion. And then we have to multiply that by the preliminary levy rate instead of prior year's levy rate, which is how it's been done in the past. And this levy rate is significantly less than ours was in the past. So that's how we get the $1.2 million for new construction.
And is that a continuing thing or a one-time thing?
Oh, it's continuous.
That's a continuing thing. Okay.
The 1% foregone is an allowance offered by House Bill 389. It is 1% of our property tax certification. That was some new direction we got. I originally had thought or got information that it was off of our total budget That's what's referenced in the House bill, but it is off of our property tax certification. So it's in the foregone calculations where a significant amount of the decreases come. So
But that 1% of the foregone only goes to maintenance and operations, correct?
M&O, but it can be added long-term, correct?
Okay,
And then the 3% of capital projects, again, is $1.3 million, same as our 3% increase. It's the
Okay.
same calculation. That will be specified for capital projects with a timeline. I can't give you a whole lot of detail. They're still waiting on some.
but that's the part that's a one-time thing.
That's the part, right. So whether it's one time or if you can take it multiple years, you state how long you're going to be using that for what capital project. At the end of that capital project, you notify the state. They remove it from your allowable property tax certification, and it's already deducted from your foregone balance.
Okay.
So once you use it, and you go on. So if there's no change in our property in legislation, there's the potential that next year we could do a similar item with the 1% in foregone and then the 3% in foregone. Some of the things that are in question right now that they're waiting for legal opinion on is this $1.2 million allowable if we choose to do the 3% increase next year? So for projections going forward, 3% of $1.2 million isn't significant, but it is something that as it compounds going forward, they're still waiting on that legal opinion. So there's still a handful of things that I'm working with the State Tax Commission on.
So if we look, for example, at that option 4 number, the total amount of the certification increase is 4.1 million. In round numbers, about 1.2 million of that is the one-time stuff, and the other 3 million or so
Correct.
is ongoing. Okay.
And we
All
can
right.
take that 1.2 for a set number of years. We'll specify that when we certify.
And then for the other options below that, options 3 and 2, the 2.8 million or the 2.4 million, both of those are comprised entirely of ongoing tax increases.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Option 2 is just the 3% in new construction roll, which is about 1.2 and 1.2. And then the option 3 is 1.2 for 3%, about 1.2 for new construction, and then 1% foregone of 420,000.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Christine, did you do any projections as to the net increase on property taxes using that model home that we had last week?
I think I did. 4315, yes.
I saw one where it included, I think, option 4. Did you have any of the others, including option 6?
I do not. I can plug those in.
I would be very curious as to if we had the whole meal deal going with the entire foregone. It's good to know what these new numbers produced in terms of a tax increase.
Sure. On the option 4 calculation with the increase in that same property, in 2020, that property paid $171.53 to the Ada County Highway District. If ACHD were to take the increase of $4.1 million, which is option 4, that property would pay $198.81-ish.
Yeah.
Based off the current taxable market value information that I have right now from the assessor. A difference of about $27.
Okay. Could you, I don't know how long it would take to figure out what that difference would be using the entire foregone, but I'm guessing it
I
would
have
be.
that.
Okay.
Yep, so if we go to the entire foregone, it's about $224 from 171 to 224. So just over $50.
Okay.
55.
We're still looking at over $50. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mary?
Well, I've got kind of some long, I guess I could ask them now. So these handouts that we got are to illustrate the impacts of each of these options in contrast to the budget, the draft budget as presented. Yes, yes, I made my own copies, so they're not the legal size. So this is the draft budget that incorporates the foregone, the 10.1, and this is the one that's up on our website, correct? So my question then is on the first page, the summary page, under FY22, under cash reserves, we have 10.1 million, which is the amount of the foregone.
They're unrelated.
Just in. So what is this 10 point?
So the 10.1 is just an influx of cash that we have. Some of it is going to be from the $6 million that we had in savings from chip seal in FY20 that we stated we would be pushing forward. Some of it is cash balance just that's available. House Bill 308, I think that's the one. Building Idaho's Future.
Is some of it also from projects that couldn't get built simply because of slowdown in contractor
Sure.
work?
Sometimes the additional money.
And then each year as we go through our year-end financials, we have, several years ago, we started a priority corridor reservation. So that's to help us with the lender.
Right.
So that's kind of how all this goes. Now, just because we program it in here doesn't always necessarily mean we
Okay,
spend
so
it.
that 10.1 is just coincidental that it's.
Correct.
That
Yep,
it's
it's coincidental that it's the same amount as the foregone.
Okay, so then we don't know exactly where, I think I asked this question last time, where we have actually applied the 10.1 in this budget.
Right, some of the 10.1 was specifically to the yard development, the U-Stick and the Franklin
The new
yard
one?
developments. Yep.
Okay,
It's likely that as we balance through this, most of the projects on those lists are capital projects. Those are going to be the ones that are likely pushed. On the operational side, we can take a look there, but
so how much of the 10.1 then is going for standing up the new facility,
in the current budget, I think it is,
if you don't mind?
no.
You can get, if you don't know right off the,
I'm gonna
I think we're
guess
going to talk about this after the meeting too.
5, 6, but I can tell you that regardless, there are changes. Looks like there's 5.8 million budgeted, but regardless, there are going to be changes to the capital budget just because of what's happened between when I had to stop changes to now.
Okay.
So there's that. There's the delay of the Locust Grove portion that'll be pushed from FY22 to FY23. That's not reflected in this budget yet. So once I can get final-ish direction, I'll update the budget, give you a new packet, notate all of those major changes. And
that would be helpful.
Right.
Because
I know
I would
what's-
like a little bit more information on exactly what we're looking at here with these impacts on delays and et
Until
cetera.
I
And of
know
course,
what's
those would be approved by the commission, correct? Any projects that we are going to be removing or delaying, that
Staff
would
typically
be,
will make that a recommendation, and then the commission will approve it through the budget and the
Okay.
integrated five-year plan, yes.
Which is another great reason for additional meetings starting very quickly after August 25th.
That's always what I've pushed for, so I think those would be really beneficial. So I have a question for you then. Last week I asked about pre-fund balance, and Mr. Daigle reported that we have 26.4 in cash reserves. He said we were required to have that, and it ends up being a recommendation, correct, from GFOA. We're not legally required. It's not a mandate. Is that correct? Because the document you sent me said they recommend 2 to 3 months.
Mr. President, Commissioner, it is a recommendation from GFOA, but if you don't follow GFOA recommendations, you stand to take a hit during your audit. You take a hit during your audit because you're not following government, financial, accounting standards, thank you, then, and you start taking a hit in your audit, you will lose your ability to get good rates if you decide to bond. I mean, it has implications, not following generally accepted accounting
Okay,
procedures.
I'd like to know a little bit more about that. So this 26.4, is that 2 months, 3 months? What exactly is that?
It's approximately 2.5 months. Now, as our budget increases, I have to increase the size of that. So as the budget decreases, I decrease the size of that because it's all a function of how many bills you have.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit more about that because I was just thinking if, we're reluctant to pile on to the taxpayer this year, if we have a cash reserve and it's more than is recommended. I think now we understand it's not legally required, but there's a potential of a hit for the audit, and that is the justification for having that. Can money be taken from the cash reserve? And we put that, even if, I think the state has to have 10% of their budget in their cash reserves. So if we could use the 10% number, can we take some money from that 26.4, slide it over and still maintain 2 months worth of operational expenses?
As I said, it depends on, if you pass a $150 million budget and it takes me $30 million to cover 2 months worth, then I can't give you any of the 26 million. It depends on the size of the budget.
Okay, so
As
a lot of
your budget
variables.
goes up, the bigger my reserve needs to be. So, I mean, if you only approve a $100 million budget, yes, I can give you some of that 26 million because I don't have to cover as many expenses. But as the budget goes up, I'm forced to cover more expenses.
I'd like to, talk to you about the ramifications of that and get a little bit more information on that, because we didn't really have time to dive into that last week.
As you can tell, Paul takes this one very personal.
Yeah.
He has it all in his wallet.
I think this whole budget session has been a
I'm
personal
saving for that
thing.
Bahama vacation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Thank you, Christine.
And yet another thing to discuss very soon going forward, because there has been already some suggestions made going forward about our being able to bond possibly for some of the larger projects that we have. So there's another little.
Are you going to speak to that this evening?
Oh, well, I don't think we should,
Okay.
because that's something that absolutely doesn't bear on any decision we make for
It's hypothetical at the
tonight.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little too quick of a turnaround, but yeah. No, I would agree, we need to have these discussions early, and then we're not doing this last minute tap dance, and Christine's like, oh my gosh, because you've got your deadline to publish too, so, but thank you, Christine.
I would say that probably it might help in the interest of time, since we now know that if the entire foregone was in play, it wouldn't be any different really than it was last week when we were discussing it. So, Jim, do you have any questions about the 4 options that have been prepared?
No, it sounds like, I guess the question only is, we have a deadline tomorrow. He needs to be certified.
Yep.
The complexity arises, I think, not so much from the commission or from you. I appreciate that. It's the complexity of this new law, and this new interpretation seems to be a constantly evolving interpretation from the tax commission, which is probably driving a lot of local governments crazy as we face those deadlines. There was a consensus, I think, the commission to move forward on option 4. I thought option 6 was fine, but the other 4 commissioners said option 4. There are new numbers under that, but relative to each other, they're not that different relative to each other. So the question is, do we have Christina move forward on publishing option 4 as majority of the commission wanted, or do we revisit option 6, or do we go to some other option? My suggestion is we just, there are new numbers. They don't look good. Some of the consequences of what the legislature did, but we already know that. And so I think we're, at this point, we just say, okay, move forward on option 4. We can always pull back. we got 4 weeks now to pull back and change and certify, ultimately agree to a lower number, but I think we should let Christine move forward and certify at the number that we agreed to, or
I
that it's the
I
new
agree with
number,
that, yeah.
whatever. It's 4.1.
Okay, because we got 5:30, Jim.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I cut you off and ask
Yeah, no,
Alexis?
so that's what I think,
I would agree,
Alexis?
Commissioner
logical
Hanson.
thing to do.
Yeah, because the calculus for the foregone hasn't changed. It's
Yeah.
still 25%, and we decided that was a bridge too far.
Do you
So-
have any comment, Alexis, and thought about continuing on with option 4?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think I agree with Commissioner May and Hanson. Let's just go forward with option 4.
Okay, Dave, I assume you probably do too.
Well, yeah, let me just say in the week since our last discussion, as I've been mulling all the factors, I've come to conclude that really, as a political matter, and this is clearly a political decision about our budget, 8 to 10% is, I think, as high as we can go. And so option 4, we certainly can't. I don't think we can go farther than that.
Okay, then we've decided what we came here to decide, and that's a good thing. And we're only 1 minute late. Okay, so we'll go to the agenda right now and ask the commission if there are any questions, concerns, or changes that they would like to see on today's agenda.
I just want to say thank you, Christine.
Well,
for
yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, you need a
Yes.
Purple Heart.
Yes, you do.
And it's going to only get more complicated, because I'll put money on it. There's going to be some other interpretation coming out of the tax commission that tells you, well, actually, you can't do this or you can't do this. So I just really appreciate the integrity with which Christine is approaching this.
Okay, and are there any questions or comments about the agenda? Not hearing any, we'll turn the time over to Director Wong for a director's report.
Commissioners, thank you very much. And I have a couple things I'd like to share with you. Will not take the full 30 minutes and stuff, so you can relax a little bit. First off, as you probably are well aware, the National CDC came out with additional guidance. Delta variant that's going on. As a matter of fact, the recommendation from the White House and from CDC was that based on the areas of impact on this specific virus, organizations should consider strongly going back to wearing masks indoor all the time. Outdoor is still good. I understand there's a push by the president now to mandate masks inside of all federal buildings as we move forward. Earlier today, we did get an initial reading from Central Health, and as you know, we have been very conservative in our approach in following CDC recommendations and Central Health recommendations, and they concurred with the national, I'll call them national CDC recommendations going forward based on the different hot spots and stuff that we have here in Idaho. Ada County is not in the red zone, but it is in one of what they call, I think, significant. Where's head of HR at? Substantial areas. So based on all of that, and unless you have varying guidance for me, my determination for the operation here is that on Monday we will revert back and start the mask operations again inside of buildings. Here, we'll change the signs, and all of our visitors and guests will be required to go forward on this until the foreseeable future. And my suspicion, based on what the experts, and I always put quotes around that, are saying, is that we will most likely be in this through the fall timeframe, which we had briefed you previously on of our concerns, probably into winter, into next spring, unless something else occurs. As you probably also know, City of Boise, I think yesterday, already mandated all mask wearing inside of all of their buildings and such going forward. So we have an issue in how we work operations when it comes into Boise, which we're working through. But anyway, bottom line, again, from a conservative perspective, unless you have different or guidance for me, that's my intent on assuring. Now, I've reported to you several times that we have been, Jennifer Behringer and her team have been absolutely tremendous in ensuring that we have all the appropriate PPE, all the things in place that we've had. Our stockpile is good. We've been watching that very carefully and such, so there's really no impact on having to run out and look for things because we have a good reserve here at the district. So again, after every meeting, a big meeting here in the district, in the auditorium, we'll be fogging the auditorium. We'll continue operations with the vehicles that we have going forward. I will not mandate masks for the district on outside operations, but we will continue to try to maintain as best as we can, the appropriate spacing. And of course, we are not requiring people to get vaccinated. I don't know where that's going, but there's been some comment already about maybe some mandates coming down from the White House. I don't think it'll affect the Ada County Highway District, but I know that that is on the governor's team's desk right now. So, commissioners, unless you have any concerns on that, effective on Monday, we'll be re-energizing our previous COVID-19 protocols and such as we move forward.
Director, I would just say that, and I'm grateful for this, some of us, might have a little bit of a differing opinion on this, but our mission hasn't changed. Doesn't matter what kind of a disease, disaster, or anything else that we face here in Ada County, this highway district is expected by 502,000 people to behave and be successful as though nothing changes. So I appreciate the fact that we're doing everything in our power to make it so that we complete our mission as expected. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I agree with everything that you just said, and I just want to commend Director Wong and the district. Last year, when that order came down to shelter in place, all you had to do was just turn out the lights and go out the door because of the advanced planning. We were ready to go. You rolled it out, and I think we were an example and certainly a help to the other agencies throughout the town that you had offered an extended help to. So, and it's because of that advanced planning that now we're able to just revert. And Jennifer, we're ready to go with what we need to have on hand. So I just really want to commend the district for doing that, and did a fantastic job. And so just wanted to say that again. Who thought we would be doing this again?
Yeah.
But we're ready, and so that's the important thing. So thank you.
Can I just ask a couple of questions?
No.
Question number one, how many ACHD employees since this whole thing began have come down with COVID-19?
I won't share that with you, Commissioner, in public comment. That's HIPAA protected, and so I'm more than happy to have a
The
private.
number is, I'm not asking for identity.
I'm more than happy to have a private conversation.
All right.
off the
Well,
record.
okay, then let me put it this way. The one thing that has really bothered me about this, and it's getting a little more bothersome with this this apparent Delta variant, is that, frankly, I think the reaction nationwide has been, and at least in our area, has exceeded the actual severity of the situation. If we look at the numbers of people who've gotten sick and the actual number who've had more than minor symptoms, I don't think it justifies what we're doing. And from what I understand, this Delta variant is 90% less virulent than the original COVID-19, meaning that, I mean, the COVID-19, it was more than the common cold, but I'm not sure this new one is. Well, anyway, that's my opinion. It's my personal opinion. As far as how the district responds, that's in your ball court.
Yeah. Mr. President, Commissioner Kennedy, excellent points across the board. I will share with you, though, that recently I did receive information from a well-respected physician in the emergency ward, and what they are seeing right now is that those, I'm sure it's not a surprise, but right now the hospitals are full again. They are now considering ending elective, I know Lori's going to tell me, and by the way, legally, but but they're now considering stopping elective surgery again. If I'm not mistaken, the statistic that was shared with me by the physician and such is one that 99.6% of those that are currently going through this at two of our major hospitals all are the result of this variant, and at the same time not vaccinated. And the age area is like 20 to 40. Now, I'm excluded from that by all sorts of different things and such, but I understand and I share, I wouldn't say it that way. As the director, I have to be concerned about all operations here, and I will share this with you, that we have had our challenges when it came to the COVID-19. And I have personal knowledge, which again I will not share in public, of team members of ours that had some pretty close touch and goes on this when it comes forward. So no, I understand, sir. I've watched and I've seen, and in our household, our expanded household, not just Miss Janice and I, but the relatives, that sort of thing, that discussion comes up a lot. Yes, sir. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I want to tell him about the law. Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners.
The lovely.
One thing that the director has to consider in implementing these issues is liability to the district. And you most certainly understand negligence and the standard of care. And so we look to the industry in evaluating that. And so that's why we take the approach that we do when we follow the CDC guidelines, because they really are the standard of care. And not only that, OSHA, in terms of employer liability, also applies. There's several federal laws that apply. And so when the director's making that decision, he most certainly, that's one of the things that we look at is what's the standard of care and what's the liability. And then overall, he's looking at the end of the day, the safety of all of our employees. So it's more to it than whether you believe it's out there, whether it's not, whether it's really going to hurt you or not. It's we're looking on behalf of the district, not necessarily the individual.
No, I completely understand. And of course, the unfortunate reality is that, well, the old saying that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, we're kind of in the opposite situation where everyone is more or less obligated to take the very most conservative approach for all the reasons that you've mentioned. And in spite of any and all other consequences that all of those restrictions and changes and so on bring along, and it's unfortunate. And I understand your position. I understand how you feel. I shouldn't say feel. Why you make the decisions you make, I understand that. It's I'm mostly expressing my personal opinion.
No, I understand. And the great part about this, Mr. President, we have a tremendous team.
Yep.
They'll work through anything that we or you throw at them. Commissioners, I want to remind you that tomorrow you have a joint meeting with Eagle here. We're hosting 12 o'clock. You've seen the two agenda items and such, and again, we will be serving lunch for you. I also want to remind you that tomorrow the WTS is hosting their meet and greet for the commission. It is at the, where is it at? The Hillcrest Country Club from 5 to 7 o'clock. And again, if you are able to attend, please confirm with Stacy and such, and she'll take care of all the issues there. Earlier today, and I apologize for the late send, but it's been one of those days where you go 1, 2, 3, 1007, 1008. As I've shared with you in the last couple days, we've been working with our partners in Meridian and the Oahe School, the West Ada School District regarding the Oahe School, which, as you know, is going to open shortly. And as I hope you remember, this development agreement that is between Meridian and the West Ada School District, not with the Ada County Highway District, has been a challenge. The school district has not met the requirements for infrastructure yet, and traffic mitigation, traffic control operations, and for reasons that were all outside of their purview. Contracts, opportunities for contractors based on all the things that we're doing across the board. So the Meridian leadership had been very concerned about what would we do about this and would we support them. As I shared with you, again, I apologize for the lateness on this. I sent you two things. Number one, the proxy that we've already submitted saying that we understand, we support Meridian's continued engagement and the Oahe School District's engagement to continue their construction to safely bring students in regarding occupancy. Meridian holds occupancy as one of their key metrics and such for getting things done. This continued on this week. I was involved with several discussions with the staff leadership over at Meridian, and I have shared with their leadership the following things that I have done and will intend to do, unless, of course, you tell me I can't. The first thing is that I reaffirmed, don't know why I have to do this, but I reaffirmed the proxy that our staff already sent to them that said, yes, we're serious about this. We agree they can continue on between the two in the development agreement between Meridian and the Oahe, the Oahe School. I then asked Shandy, who's brilliant here, to put together a press release that underscored the district's support for understanding the unintended consequences and things that are out of their controls for the Oahe School District. Continue on, open up, and we are supportive of their game plan that they've already published to get done and such. That's been done. So I wanted to take one more step, and today I requested that the staff leadership at Meridian, the superintendent and vice superintendent of Ada West, the ops officer for the school, and the contractor meet me here at ACHD to have one more face-to-face to let them know that we understand, and I received, again, their assurance that they will, as they published, follow their obligation to complete the program after that school's open. And so at the end of the day, everybody seems to be on board, happy that for some reason the director of the Ada County Highway District blesses the Meridian's thing, but for all the right reasons. And so I looked at this as a very tremendous example of partnering and collaborative operations between government agencies to make sure something gets done. Now, there is going to be a slight consequence to all of the 5 of you, because you'll get the phone calls. We'll just pass them to you. But for a small amount of time, there is going to be some congestion around that school. We know this. They're working through that. It is not a safety issue. It's a congestion issue for about 20 to 30 minutes a day when it's all said and done. So that's what we've done. That's where we are with the school districts. I'm confident in all of the leadership that came to visit today, that they're all working toward this, and our role is that we support Meridian and West Ada to continue on to bring on this school, and we'll do everything possible to help them when it comes down to maybe working with a contractor, doing a phone, whatever it takes to ensure that this gets done. So I wanted to make sure you were well aware of that going forward. You'll probably see my little one, well, I sent it to you about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, and such. You'll see everything there. It's in your machines to tell us. Commissioners, do you have any questions on this at all?
I don't.
Okay.
There's already been some public comment about safety. And I just suggested that perhaps the parents could require the kids that are driving cars to pretend like they're riding a bicycle and be defensive.
Again, our team has looked at this very closely. That's why we issued the proxy that says we understand we're not a part of this, but we understand. Move forward. We're good. We'll support both parties to make this work. And again, it is a congestion issue for about 20 or 30 minutes a day, pick up and drop off times and stuff. And
that occurs at every single big high school in the world.
I didn't want to remind everybody at the meeting, but I just wanted to.
Nothing we can do about the way the developments happen out
I mean,
there.
in high schools, yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, Commissioners, last night, we were in front of the Meridian City Council regarding our USTIC maintenance complex request. To be candid, it was a rough start, but it ended on a smoother start, I guess I'll call it. There was some good dialogue back and forth. I believe the General Counsel, I think I'll put it that way, but he did a great job on articulating the exact nature of why we want to do this. And bottom line, if you're asked, is we want to be able to support Meridian better and quicker. That's the whole issue here. So a lot of discussion back and forth on when we should complete the widening of Ustick Road, a couple other things. I believe there was a slight bit of miscommunication that occurred. So as I said, it was a slightly rough start, but a smoother go. We have been the council elected, and very kindly so, to continue this agenda till 7 September is the next date that we'll be on board back with them. We are going to work very strongly, that's probably the wrong term, but with the Meridian staff to develop an agreement that fits what we believe Meridian thinks is important, what we believe we think is important. You'll see this, of course, but at the end of the day, I believe that should cement any of the concerns or continued discussions that was raised yesterday, which we thought would be a 10-minute meeting, and it went a lot longer than that.
So I have a question, where we've got two now that we know that we have the maintenance facility on Federal Way that's sort of queued up. So we know that in the long run, we're going to be developing out that maintenance facility. And we have a USTIC facility that's queued up. My perception is that if it takes too long at USTIC, it's going to take, this one's behind it. And if there's a way in which we can just sort of, as a contingency, plan to shift that and say, there are just too many obstacles, let's move forward on the Federal Way one, and then the Federal Way one can pick up some of the Cloverdale maintenance area until we're ready to move into the USTIC site, so that the Cloverdale site doesn't have to, because obviously there's a lot of, that's the whole idea, is Cloverdale site is currently needs the relief for we need that third facility out there. So I just get concerned that it seems to me we can move fairly smoothly with the Federal Way one, and maybe they realize, we can't just wait, and there are consequences countywide if those facilities don't get built out at the time that we are planning them. And so to me, it's fine if in fact Federal Way facility starts becoming much smoother, we can figure out a contingency to move forward on that one ahead of USTIC.
Mr. President, Commissioner Hanson, you were obviously in my office this morning when we already had that discussion.
Oh, well.
But yes, we're already looking at options on that across the board.
I think that'd be totally appropriate. It should be realized, since it's all public now. We're moving the maintenance facility. We're creating a maintenance facility on Federal Way.
Mm-hmm. Commissioners, that ends my administrative report. Unless you have any questions, you have.
I have one quick question. So we had presentation several months ago about the Starview, that huge Starview project to rebuild. So I drove up there yesterday, and there's nothing there. So there's nothing, so did they ask for extension? There's not even an orange cone. Because I know they can get one extension, but they still have to, I mean, it's a huge project. So, and Gary Inselman is saying, yes, they asked for an extension. So that means they're not obligated to start until August 1st of next year? Is that it? Or what's the process? Because I know, they continue to build homes up there, but, and so the neighbors need to know, we all need to know, since if they don't actually build it, we have to do it with the bond that they've posted.
Mr. President, Commissioner Hanson, yes, they've requested an extension. They've worked on meeting the requirements the commission placed on how that road is
Right.
designed and built, and it would be built next year. And they have committed to not doing that last phase until this is completed, so that everybody's comfortable that they're not going to build out and walk away from that requirement. They've made that commitment, so we're working through the details with them.
Okay, when can we anticipate starting to see activity on that hill? Not till the spring?
Yeah.
Okay. But the homes that are already built up there, they're already selling all those, I guess, or?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's a later phase that they can't sell. Is that the deal?
That would be correct.
Okay. Thanks. To the extent that you let Donna Burns and the Neighborhood Association know that, just give them an update, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. All right, we're off for 3.5 minutes. We predicted a lot of things when we reluctantly gave our letter to the city.
Okay.
So she's the lady standing there.
Who's coming?
I told Linda, she's actually in your district.
Is that the TDS?
Yeah, TDS.
I'm,
Mr. President, Commissioners, it's now 6 p.m.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance as we begin our meeting. Thank you. I
Pledge allegiance to the
Of the United States of and to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Again, thank you for joining us this evening. I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda or approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll go on to the consent agenda then. And items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or a commissioner so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless otherwise noted. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll now begin with the regular agenda, and the first item is Resolution 2357, a resolution ordering that an unimproved portion of Table Rock Road to be declared unopened public right-of-way and excluded from a CHD system of highways. And we'll turn some time over to our General Counsel, Steve Price, for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. For the record, Steve Price, General Counsel. The issue on Table Rock has been an issue that's been going on quite a while. Actually, I think it started in 2018. So tonight I'm going to give you a little bit of a background and then review some of the current conditions of what's going on there, and then a request by Mr. Bates, who's the property owner in the area, as well as the Idaho Historical Society. Thereafter, then, I believe Mr. Bates will be providing you a presentation as well, and he can get into some of the details to some of the issues that are going on there currently. So, back in 2018, the city reached out to us seeking authorization to gate Table Rock Road. But we had to inform them that there's a statute that prohibits gating or otherwise obstructing the public right-of-way for motorists on Table Rock Road. And so we had trying to find a way to seek a solution to that. We proposed the idea that Boise City has the authority under their police powers to pass a declaration regarding public health and safety. So they passed in October of 2019 a resolution declaring the illegal nighttime activities was an ongoing threat to public safety and welfare within the city of Boise. They identify wildfire, illegal parking, and vandalism. And so by doing that, they declared the need to limit the unauthorized vehicle access to Table Rock area during nighttime hours by installing an automated gate, electronic access across Table Rock Road at the intersection just before Altavia. And the reason why they wanted to do that there was because, if you recall, a number of years ago, there was a bunch of homes that were sliding off the mountain. And a lot of those homes so the structures still remain. And so it was an area at night where a lot of kids were going up there. It's really dangerous. We had part of Altavia, we changed the status of that road from open to unopened because of the public safety concerns, and the police have given them a license agreement to put a gate across that as well. So that is the reason why they put the location there. And so you'll see on this map where the gate approximate location is now. This is Altavia that goes along here, and some of these homes are either gone or sliding off the mountain. But anyway, so the gate that the city has put is here. Some of the history of that, our new commissioners, you helped approve interagency agreement with the city of Boise to install that gate on January 13th of this year. It was one of the first things you did. And the Altavia gate was finally constructed and operating on or about April 13th of this year. And so that gate remains open during daylight hours to allow the public access to the Table Rock area, but closes automatically at sunset and opens at sunrise each day to prevent nighttime access by unauthorized individuals. So the applicants, we've received their proposal. We've received numerous communications from adjacent property owners. There's 9 property owners that take access for a portion of the Table Rock Road from Boise City and Ada County law enforcement agencies, the Idaho Historical Society, regarding the ongoing problems of vandalism, illegal parking, and mostly blocking the use of the current gate that's up there that won't allow those authorized users to pass when they need to for whatever reason, as well as trespass on private property during daylight hours. And so they're most certainly, with a lot of communications that we've received, it most certainly appears that there is a continuation of the problems going on during daylight hours, not just at night. And so they're requesting us to authorize the relocation of the Historical Society gate, which is at the very end. It's at the very top, and I'll show you a map here in a minute, the gravel portion of Table Rock Road to a new location, which is really down below at the end of pavement of Table Rock Road at kind of the intersection of Wild Horse Lane, and I'll show you that. But in order to do that, it requires a license agreement, and in order to do that, in order to obstruct the public right-of-way, we have to change the status of that road from open to unopened, which we do. So here is the better depiction of that. Here is Table Rock Road. This here is Wild Horse Lane. The current gate is located here, which is at the very top, and the authorized users, there's 9 of them, that they need to get up to this area for various reasons. So this is a gravel road. It's approximately 10,050 feet. But anyway, the idea is to move this gate down here, which will then prevent a lot of the parking problems. You can see even in this picture, you can see the cars that are just lined up everywhere. So kind of give you a little Law School 101, Idaho Code 2319 prohibits ACHD from allowing any encroachment that obstructs and prevents the use of an open highway or public right-of-way for vehicles. There's an exception, and we helped change this law a number of years ago, but it doesn't prevent us from placing gates or other encroachments within an unopened right-of-way. And so that's, in the past, that's why we have actually changed the status. In Idaho Code 40-202, it authorizes the commission really to redesignate an open and maintained public highway or public right-of-way, and subsequently order it to be excluded from our highway system and be declared unopened and unmaintained. And if you do that, Idaho Code 40-202 says you don't have a duty to maintain and expend public funds on an unopened right-of-way, and you don't have any liability for injury or damage if you don't maintain it. So just to kind of establish for the record that how we got ownership of this, it used to be a prescriptive right-of-way, and the previous owner, Sun Mountain Limited, they didn't like where a lot of those roads were going. They were kind of dangerous. 4-wheelers were doing it. I was guilty of that. And so as part of land consolidation, they transferred the real property to the current alignment on Table Rock Road. On June 11th, ACHD in 1998, we accepted the dedication of that property for Table Rock Road right-of-way. And the The gravel portion of Table Rock Road has never been improved to meet our highway standards, so it's just a typical unimproved open highway. And I think Jennifer in the past has given you a presentation on the distinction between unopened and open and the maintenance obligations associated with that. Again, it's about 1,050 feet. Our maintenance crew, we grade it 3 to 4 times per year. We also have to do a burrow ditch. A lot of people causes problems there, and so we have to do maintenance on that at least one time a year. And a lot of additional 4x4 use requires more grading and burrow ditch maintenance. Jennifer's given me a number that our annual costs up there are about $1,600 per year. Again, the authorized users, they currently have access through that upper the Idaho Historical Society gate. They need to have access. There's Barbonas, sandstone. He has a quarry there. He has a truck that carries about 20 tons of sandstone, and it's a precarious hill anyway. And to stop at the gate at that location, but at the same time there are cars parked in front of there, and he has to sit there and wait until the people get out of there, as well as, so it's really become difficult for the Historical Society. They maintain that gate, but they also have the responsibility for the Table Rock area in terms of land management. So here's some of the applicant's pros. This is consistent with the Boise City resolution to prohibit unauthorized vehicular access. It'll decrease illegal activities, dangerous parking, trespass. And by the way, the parking, these guys are parking right on the edge of a cliff. There's no littering and vandalism. It'll increase hiker and bicycle safety. It'll decrease the cost of law enforcement, decrease the risk of fire, and prevent erosion and damage to the habitat and hillsides. The con is obviously to limit vehicular access for the general public to the Table Rock area to be able to drive up. So if adopted, the commission would have to find, which is in the resolution, that it's in the public interest to unopen the gravel portion of the Table Rock Road and exclude it from our system of highways. And with that, we would have to amend our official map and also authorize the director to execute a license agreement with Mr. Gates, and that's his company, BID LLC, and the Historical Society jointly, to install and maintain a fence and other features at the end of the paved portion of Table Rock Road. Now, the terms of the license agreement are intended to address some of, a lot of concerns and really narrow down what the gate would do. It has to provide 24/7 rights for the authorized users, continued rights to use that area, pedestrians and bicycle users, utilities, easement holders, ACHD, law enforcement, emergency services to have access to that gravel portion of the road. Also have to provide that that somebody could schedule, probably with the Historical Society, a public vehicular access on a schedule to access the Table Rock area for individuals with physical limitations. And also that they would have to maintain the gravel road to ACHD standards, basically its current condition. And with that, I can stand for questions, or Mr. Bates is prepared to go ahead with his presentation.
I have no questions. Anyone else?
Well, I do have some questions, but they might be answered by the next presentation, so why don't we just go forward?
Okay, very good.
Thank you. A rough crowd.
We're a rough bunch.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner Pickering might have some questions for Steve. I have to let her unmute. We had some unruly behavior. So, there she is.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So I also had to stop her
wait,
video.
I'll wait till the applicant gives his presentation, but just want to stay off, unmute, so I can ask questions if you don't mind.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I can control the mouse as well. Okay. Well, I can just about say amen to what
Mr.
Steve
Bates,
said.
would you identify yourself and
I
your
will.
address?
I will.
Thank you.
I will. Thank you. Mr. President, Commissioners, my name is Douglas Bates. I live at 4333 East Wild Horse Lane in Boise, Idaho. I am a private property owner up in the area, and I am co-chair of the TRAC Committee, TRAAC, which stands for Table Rock Access Advisory Committee, which is the committee that was convened and put together by the Historical Society to address some of the access issues that we face up on Table Rock Road. There are currently, and I think I want to state this, 27 stakeholders in the TRAC committee, including the Historical Society, Police, Sheriff, Boise Fire, Parks and Rec, Boise Chamber Rotary, bikers, hikers. We also have Climbing Association on the committee. A lot of neighbors. The Shoshone Paiute tribe is on the committee. Table Rock Restoration, Independent Living Council, and many, many others. It's an awesome group, and they've worked really hard to address a number of the issues. And I think I can just click this to move forward, or, oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. So, Steve, you saw just a moment ago, my map is not as good as their map is, but essentially the green road going south is the paved portion, and the kind of this section of ACHD right-of-way we're talking about is in yellow. The blue is the current gate location, and what we would propose is that we move.
Just a second. The Zoom meeting is not progressing through the slides, Stacy.
Right, I see that.
Okay.
Ken, can we try to? We don't have the presentation. We have on the Zoom is the actual. So you need to. Not that one. The one that shows the map. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Are we back?
There we're back.
Yeah, we're
Thank
back.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Scared me. So we would propose the blue, which is the current Historical Society gate, be moved down to this junction. As Steve stated, this yellow section is about 1,000 feet. And then the purple road that goes all the way up to the top, the mesa and the rock quarry, is about 1,500 feet. So it's about 2,500 feet to the top. All traffic currently is stopped at the blue gate, and of course hikers continue up the purple road to the top. A lot of things have occurred up here. One of the issues that I want to make sure we clarify is one of the challenges is once cars come up to the beginning of the right-of-way, all they have to do is go around this corner and they disappear, mostly from the public. They ignore the signs, they ignore the fact that they're not supposed to be in there, and they're not seen. So they tend to congregate. And I don't think I need to share with the commission that congregations of young people where they can't be seen oftentimes eliminates any sort of issues in terms of them doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing. For example, right here on this bend where the mouse is where a group in 2016 was shooting Roman candles out into the dry sagebrush right where the mouse is, and that started that 2016 fire right there at that start point. Why they did it, it makes no sense. They were alone, they were not seen, and they started the fire. Up here on the other side, on the west side, right where the mouse is where they've gone up and they've torn up the hillsides and created this network of roads at the top, and the ACHD had the unfortunate responsibility to fix a lot of damage where they not only tore up the private road, but they tore huge ruts through the side of the building, so of the road. This is kind of sensitive, so I can't scroll this. Can I just hit click maybe? Oh, there we go. So that gravel right away, we call it a golden path.
It's an invitation to be hidden in a remote area. It encourages illegal parking. It blocks commerce from traffic not only at the top trying to come down, but I've unfortunately have had calls from Boise Fire and Boise Rescue that have said, I don't know why they call me, maybe because they know I'll try to get involved, but you've got to get those cars out of there. If something went bad up there on top, we can't get through those parked cars where kids have congregated, left their cars, and gone to the top. A lot of issues with drugs and alcohol, vandalism. We'll talk about a little bit more about that in a minute. Of course, fires, trespassing on private property, and one of the big issues that we'll address in just a minute is some of the incredible erosion that's taken place. Okay, so I'm not sure what I did there. You get me back? Okay, are we good? I think I can just click and advance it, so I'm going to click it. That didn't advance it.
Next.
Say again?
He'll advance it for you. Just
Okay.
let him know.
Okay. So problems and concern, Steve talked about it a little bit. Commercial traffic blocking, enforcement. Sheriff and police spend a lot of time, almost every night. Sheriff was up there last night, issued 5 or 6 tickets, and is up there almost every night trying to enforce the traffic along that ACH right-of-way. Let's go to the next slide, please. It's just one example of what happens. I mean, when it seems like people lose inhibitions and maybe a lot of common sense when they're not seen. I don't understand it, but they go off-road, and when they get to those hillsides, people think that the real danger of fire is fireworks or lighting fires, and they've done that. We've seen them light fires in the caves up under Table Rock Mesa. The real risk is the undercarriage on that hot four-wheel drive that they've been spinning to get up those hills. And if it catches and touches some of that dry brush, you got a major fire risk. We've also had a lot of injury up in the area from people rolling off those steep slopes. We've had deaths up there of kids that have tried to navigate or race those steep roads and lost that battle. Next slide, please. This is something that makes me absolutely crazy, is the severe erosion that's happened up there. You can see that as these kids tear up the hillside, they've literally destroyed the flora and the fauna and the plant life. That's half the problem. It's ugly, but the bigger problem, if you look closely, is when we get into the winter and the spring, that water comes rushing down and creates ruts and moves dirt down to the bottom. And quite frankly, there's been a lot of damage on the paved portion of the ACHD road up there as dirt and water have filtered down and washed out the side of the road. They've been up several times placing rock, trying to support the road and getting that water out of there. Next slide, please. This is every night. And every day, people, unfortunately, once they get up there and get behind and are not seen, we pick up trash every night. Next slide. This is one of the byproducts of what I call the raceway, trying to get up there on that road. They race to the top and they lose their inhibitions and common sense and might even take a shotgun along for fun and blast a mailbox on the way up. And next slide. This is a good picture, I think, of the parking. Let me see if I can get this mouse moving. Take you through these slides. These are cars parked in the no parking area at the top, right against the gate. If we go to this slide, the gate's current location is right here. Okay, so you can see there are 4 or 5 cars parked with nobody in them in front of the gate. and then there are cars that are blocked up and down the road. The problem that the sheriff has is, what do they do when they go up? There's nobody in the cars to talk to. So they can cite the cars, but that doesn't help with the access or exit from the area. This is another view from the south. That's the current gate right up here. And then finally, this is looking with the current gate at your back down the hill of parking and pedestrians on this gravel road. You can see that when they park, oftentimes on both sides of the road, pedestrians are forced to go up the middle of that road, hikers, the ones that really deserve to be up there. And it creates a terrible hazard in terms of somebody coming up in a fast four-wheel drive or a Jeep that decides to race that narrow gauntlet between the cars on that right-of-way. Also, I want to show you can see it straight ahead, the big scar on the hillside. The pavement is on the other side of that hill, so they drive up, and then once they get to the junction, they come around this hill, and now they're not seen. They can't be seen unless somebody literally drives up to get them, and that's why you see all these access points. Next slide. This is 70,000 pounds of danger coming down the hill, and they do a great job, Barbonas. They're very, very careful, but that road is steep, it's narrow, and it's rutted. And when those trucks are coming down with 20, 30,000 pounds of rocks, they're coming down. In fact, I took this picture from our camera. If you look closely, the jogger is right there. And if you see the whole film, the jogger was coming down here, and the truck was plowing on his brakes to slow down so the jogger could get out of the way. It wasn't a problem. It was a safe situation. But had 3 or 4 cars of kids, and usually every car has 3 or 4 kids in it, been going the opposite direction, we could have had a real problem. Next slide. You've probably seen some of these slides. I mean, everything from destruction, painting, graffiti. They got the cross a couple times. Once it turns out that when the vandalism occurs, most often it's a group of people in a car with materials with a plan. And so what we'd like to do with this resolution is mitigate that motivation and provide a fantastic scenic hiking venue for people that really want to be up there. Next slide. I won't spend too much time on this slide. I just thought it was amusing that we have many camera footage showing people destroying, stealing, vandalizing right under camera. So most of this is not occurring anymore. The lower gate has been very successful in stopping middle of the night traffic. So this is a little bit dated. Next slide. This was a bad one. This fire, 2016, that burnt that whole mountain down and really burnt all the way up to almost to Lucky Peak. Started with 3 or 4 kids congregated out of sight and shooting Roman candles into the weeds. And that's something that it's so dry up there right now. We just absolutely have to be super careful with that. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up here pretty quickly. Why move the gate? Steve went on this, spoke about this a little bit, and what Resolution 2357 does. The current location, we think, from data and from observation, encourages illegal parking, which negatively impacts safety. It reduces hiker and biker safety, and those are the people we really should be looking after. It facilitates illegal activity as a result of the staging it encourages and the congregations that it encourages. The new location of the gate, we literally, and I've talked to several vendors, would pick the gate up and move it 1,000 feet down and put it right at that junction. And that location it decreases fire risk for the reasons we've talked about, reduces the cost of monitoring and enforcement. The police and sheriff really don't want to go up there and chase people all over the mountain. They do a great job, but they just don't have the resources to drive up the right-of-way, see 4 or 5 cars parked, get out of their cruisers or squad cars, and start hiking the mountains to find these kids. If we move that gate down, we really move it, we limit the traffic into a junction area that is much easier to manage for enforcement. Not only that, but it increases the safety of the bicyclists and the hikers who we respect and want to enjoy their time up there. And it has no negative impact, in our opinion, on authorized vehicular access by landowners, lessees, or vendors. It's the same gate. They have the same keys. Every time an authorized vehicle goes up there, they unlock the gate, go in, lock it behind them. They will continue to do that, but they'll just do it 1,000 feet lower on a flat, non-steep, non-graded, non-turned area. Let me talk just a second about that new gate location at the junction. I think it's important that the commissioners understand it's lit 24/7. The lights come on at sunset and they burn all night long, big floodlights. So that whole junction area is lit up. And I've learned from observing these kids, they don't like light if they're up to something. They just don't like it. I mean, they want to be in the dark. And if they're up to doing something vandalous, the darkness supports that more than being under light. In addition, the terrain is flat, providing safer stop and start for the large, heavy commercial tractor trailers that need to stop there. We have 3 cameras in right now with public access. So everything that goes on in that junction, even I was talking to Barbonis a few weeks ago, and she said, "You mean I can watch on the camera if cars are parking my truck's access?" And she said, "Can you send me the URL?" And I sent it to her, and now she has on the corner of her screen the camera showing the junction. She can't see what's going on at the gate with the existing gate, but when it's if we're able to move it down to the junction, we and everybody can see exactly what's going on. And then finally, there's a large turnaround. They're much more, probably 10 times the room to turn around. Next slide. So why move the gate? Well, you know, from the ACHD's perspective, we think it reduced costs, repairing damage caused by illegal acts on the gravel right-of-way. Emergency response, there's fewer law enforcement patrols, reduced fire risk, decreased costs. Private landowners see their rights respected and a reduced fire risk. Business, increased safety, elimination of disruptions while they park trucks on a steep grade, waiting for kids to come off the mountain and move their cars that are blocking their exit. And recreation, I mean, that's the great thing, and that's what the track committee is all about. Safer Table Rock Mesa access for bicyclists and hikers, and reduce likelihood of conflict with law enforcement. Just two more quick slides. I wanted to make sure that, and I know the commission knows this, but there are a lot of trails going up the top. And some say, why do they even come that way? Well, there are people, disabled and others, families with small children, I've spoken to thousands of them, that can't make that front hike up those trails. So they want to drive halfway up, and there's parking, legal parking lower down, that gives them the access to, gives them the ability to get halfway up. And so we very, very much support, and the track committee has continued to support anything that provides that access. So that's pretty much it. I just a quick thank you to President and Commissioners for taking the time to listen to us tonight. I know you have a lot of important things to do, probably a lot more important than moving a silly gate 1,000 feet. But we think it's important, and we like ideas, both individually as property owners and as a committee, that make things better for the public in terms of accessing the Table Rock Mesa. I wanted to quick shout out and thank Director Wong and Steve Price. They've been really helpful in giving us ideas and thoughts on how to kind of navigate this whole process. And then, of course, thanking Jan Gallimore, Director of the Idaho State Historical Society, who has been just invaluable in terms of guiding the track committee and giving us some great ideas in making the Mesa accessible and a good experience for everybody that wants to go up there. And with that, I'll stand for questions, or let Steve handle all the questions.
I have a comment, and I think it's probably universally accepted by the commission. You are a very patient man, and your neighbors and the Historical Society are very patient people, and we thank you for that.
Yes.
Any other?
President.
May I ask a question, a couple of questions? And this is just to get a complete picture of the proposal, and maybe, well, I guess the pictures are gone now, but I'm just trying to, in my mind, make sure I understand where the new proposed gate location is. There's the gate on Wild Horse,
Right.
and I believe in the surveillance pictures that we saw, well, the one we saw with the jogger in it.
Yeah.
Is that about where the new gate location is?
That jogger was 30 feet from
Okay.
that junction, and the nose of the truck was just crossing
About where the gate's going to be?
where the gate would be relocated.
Okay. And the
Yeah,
Wild Horse Gate is the one that's in the foreground of that picture?
No, of this picture, if I were standing and taking this picture, the Wild Horse Gate is right behind me,
Okay.
right behind me.
If we went to
So-
those, I think in those surveillance pictures, like the fourth slide down on the left there, one more down, that one. If we look at that one, sorry, that's not, yeah, there we go.
There's the Wild Horse Gate.
That's the gate there at the bottom of the picture.
And
Okay.
that's in the dark, but that truck was coming down right
Across
right
the,
there was the truck, and there was the jogger.
right, okay.
there.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner McKinney.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bates and Mr. Price. I have a couple questions, and first of all, I want to say thank you for presenting so thoroughly, and I can definitely understand your concern in wanting things to be safer for all folks, but I'm just really curious, how come the city of Boise isn't asking for this?
Question to me?
Would you repeat that, Alexis, and who were you directing it to?
Yes. I guess I'm directing it to Mr. Bates or Mr. Price, whoever's going to be able to answer it better. But previously, like we talked about, the city of Boise came to us to put in this gate. Why isn't the city of Boise making this request again this time?
Crack that, or do you? Okay, Mr. President, Commissioners, the city of Boise basically doesn't have, it's kind of a funny jurisdictional issue, because the city of Boise, the police, has jurisdiction up through the neighborhood, and then it turns over to the sheriff. And so from that new lower gate up to the junction that we talked about, that's all Ada Sheriff, and it's Ada Sheriff up the ACHD right-of-way and Ada Sheriff up the private road, and then at the top of the mesa, it's Boise Police again. Okay, so Boise Police to patrol at the top of the mesa has to go up through everything to get to the top. The most active enforcement agency has been the sheriff, and they've been there every night. I don't know how the sheriff has authority to request movement of the gate, but you probably noticed in your packets that I went to the chief of police and the lieutenant and asked them for a letter, and they both sent a letter into the commission supporting the movement. I don't know why they haven't done more than that. Okay, Steve.
You're not only patient, you're thorough.
Yeah, we saw all the
And then-
attachments.
Yeah.
Alexis?
Yeah, another question. So I'm just curious, and I've been up there and can understand the craziness when it comes to parking and all of that. But I'm concerned by moving the gate further down, although it is going to be paved. Do you still foresee some parking challenges, because still there's going to be a lot of cars? And there's not really a parking area besides, the road and the shoulder. So could you explain, just what you foresee as the parking impacts if we were to do this? And have you talked to the neighbors at this junction where this gate would be, and how did they feel about it?
Yeah, Mr. President, Commissioners, good question. We're not going to eliminate all the illegal parking. We just won't. We have done and spent a lot of money on signage And there is parking about 900 feet below the junction where they park along, and there's room to park along the paved road. Right, I don't think the issue is going to change as far as the parking is going to concern. There's still going to be people that ignore the signs and decide to come up and park in front of the Wild Horse Gate. I mean, a month ago, a woman parked her car right in front of the gate, and the gate was trying to open and bumping against her car. And I said to her, are you getting anything on this? You know, do you perceive that there's an issue here? And she said, you want me to move my car? And I said, yes, please. You're right in our driveway, and the gate's trying to open. So there are going to be instances of people that don't get it, and we will manage those with education, with signage, talking to people, and if need be, the sheriff is available to do that. But we think we have and will continue to make some good improvements as far as the whole parking situation. Again, there's a lot of cars that come up, but most of the people that want to hike and are good hikers will come from the historical side of Table Rock and hike up there. A few people want to come up and park to get a little closer. And if they park in the right way and hike in the right way, I don't think it's going to be a problem. And certainly moving that gate's not going to change anything from that perspective, because they're not supposed to be up that right of way anyway. It's posted all the way up, no parking. And there's a big sign that says no vehicular access beyond where the new proposed gate will be. So the gate is just kind of concreting the idea that we want your vehicles to stay down here and not go up and block access above.
So, Mr. Bates, have you talked to the neighbors that would be, now next to this new gate?
Mr. President, Commissioners, yes, we've had many discussions over the last 2 years with the neighbors, both, actually 3 groups of neighbors. You have about 50 neighbors in Wild Horse. You have probably, hundreds in Terra Nativa, and then you have Table Rock. And we have actually members of each one of those neighborhoods on the track committee, and they're very aware of what's going on, and they're aware of the parking issues, and they're very supportive of what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. And last question. I couldn't really tell from any of the maps that were provided, but how many residences are now going to be behind the gate if we were to move it? There was only just that map of this is where the present gate is, this is where the proposed gate is. Are there other property owners that would be benefiting from this gate movement, and how many would there be?
Mr. President, Commissioners, there will be no additional private property owners behind the gate if it's moved. All private.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. We okay?
Yeah, Mr. President, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Bates. This has been an
Yes.
exhaustive project for you, and quite an impressive outreach program that you've conducted. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed your presentation.
I would just echo that. The track committee's done an enormous job. I know we gave you great kudos of all the work you've done over the last several years, the whole committee.
Oh.
And you've led the charge. I know that you and
Well, Commissioner Hanson, I'm going to push the credit right here. Director.
I was going to say
Gallimore has
Janet did a
been,
lot. Director
fantastic.
Gallimore did a lot to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciate this and very excellent materials in the packet that we received. So it just makes a whole lot of sense. I'm tempted to say you had me at my name is Doug Bates.
Okay.
But I did want to sit through your presentation.
Okay.
It's very well put together.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right. Now, Stacy didn't give me any list of anyone who wanted to speak to this, and I'm really not.
Director
Would you like
Gallimore.
to do it? Yes, thank you.
He's done a lot of good work.
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners. I'm Janet Gallimore, the head of the Idaho State Historical Society. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and say hello. Mostly, I wanted to
address
come
for the record, please. Address.
Our address?
Yes.
Oh, and the Historical Society's central offices are at 2205 Old Penitentiary Road in the Old Penn Historic District. So I really came to say thank you for your consideration of this action, and I also wanted to make a few different points than Doug and Steve have made. You've got all the evidence and the reasons that you need to take action, but I wanted to be grateful for the partnership that the State Historical Society has always had with your team. And I think this new license agreement shows and demonstrates a great public-private partnership with private landowners, the state, and the ACHD coming together to co-create a solution that's for benefit for all. Of course, as noted by Steve, this action would reduce the burden to ACHD for managing a right-of-way that doesn't really need to be there and actually is causing challenges. It helps our police. You know, the city police and the county police have been fantastic in helping the Idaho State Historical Society because our jurisdiction is the top of the mesa, and we also have private security that helps to manage that. But, you know, as Doug was saying, there's jurisdictions in between, and so this will help make sure that all of the activity of managing the traffic happens below the mesa, which is where we're trying to protect. I really am grateful for the track committee and for Doug's leadership, along with our board chairman, Bill Butici, who's the head of the State Historical Society Board of Trustees. That's a 7-member board appointed by the governor, so he has taken quite a leadership role with Doug, making sure that we bring many voices to the table to make decisions and recommendations about this. There will be no impact to our vendors and no impact to fire safety. In fact, it will be helped if we don't have people in front of the gate halfway up the hill. And of course, looking at it from my own agency's point of view, we are responsible for managing that entire district, some 400 acres, on behalf of the state of Idaho, and we have 4 maintenance staff people and 1 security company. So anything that we can do to reduce graffiti, reduce garbage, reduce crime, really helps us and helps our budget and makes our budget be able to be more operationalized on the mission side rather than on crime management and vandalism. And so that is really much more efficient in terms of taxpayer dollars and what we have to invest, which I want to invest in recreation, interpretation, and appropriate access. And so I want to thank you again for your consideration of this action and for your partnership now and into the future. And I would be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Done a great job.
Thank you.
I don't think we have any other than appreciating your presence.
Well, thank
Good
you so much.
materials.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak to this item?
No one signed up.
Okay.
Mr.
Then-
President, I have a question for Steve. Do we need 2 motions? The resolution doesn't speak to in order to enter into the license agreement, or will a license agreement come back to us as a separate? Because the motion is to declare it as unopened, but then we still have to enter into a license agreement, right?
Yeah, in my presentation, we would request that you would direct the director to go ahead and execute a license. It would be one of our standard license agreements, but the resolution would give staff the authority to go ahead, and that was our intention.
So it doesn't have to come back to us yet another time.
Nope.
Save Mr. Bates and
Yes.
Gallimore another trip to the highway district.
All right.
If that's
then-
the case, Mr. President, I would move to adopt Resolution 2357 and direct the staff to execute a license agreement.
I was hoping someone would while that was fresh in our minds, yes. It's been moved and seconded that we approve this Resolution 2357. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the motion carries. The last item on our agenda is public communications, during which we will hear from folks once in a while about virtually anything and everything that's on their mind. Is there any such communications?
Yes, there is somebody here who would like to speak
Yes.
to us.
All right, well, please come forward, and if you give us your name and address, we'd love to hear from you. And you've waited through the whole meeting, haven't you?
Yes, thank you. Mr. President and Commissioners, my name is Linda Gossett, and I live at 4780 Riverfront Place in Riverside Village. My neighborhood has been under siege for more than 15 months. The asphalt streets look like a poorly constructed patchwork quilt, while digline paint disfigures the streets and sidewalks. On top of this, our sidewalks, lawns, and plantings have been torn up numerous times. I have 5 questions of you. Input. Why was the neighborhood not given any warning or input prior to this disruption?
So,
Go ahead, Jim.
yeah, I know Mrs. Gossett. Linda, this is the TDS.
Yes.
Fiber.
Yeah, so Commissioner May and I know what the project is, but the other 3 commissioners don't. So TDS is digging up the street to put in fiber. So, and I know I forwarded your email. And digging and digging and digging, yes.
Patching, digging, and digging some more.
I'm not sure who, we authorize permits, but as far as the necessity or how neighbors are notified, I believe from our conversation with the executive office of TDS, they came in here a number of weeks ago and met with Mr. Price and Mr. Wong and myself and others. And I think I would be charitable to say we pretty much gave them a good flogging. And there's more to it than that, of course. We've been hearing for many months now exactly what's been going on. We're not issuing them any further permits, likely until they've remediated everything that their former contractor, who's been fired, said they would. That may answer one of your other questions too, I don't know. But kind of where we are today, the director could probably give you a little more of an exact description of what's possibly going on. We are considering fines and a few other things. Question number 2.
Supervision. Why has ACHD not supervised the contractor's work more closely? Many areas have been dug up, patched, expanded, patched, and dug up again with substandard materials. In front of my driveway is a soft patch of asphalt that I can loosen up with a trowel. And there's a soft asphalt patch on my sidewalk where there should be concrete. I asked them why they wouldn't put concrete in there, and they say, we don't do concrete work, we only do asphalt. Also, workers are there not wearing any protective gear. No gloves, no sturdy shoes, no long pants or glasses or head coverings. And there's been teenagers there working, wearing shorts and just athletic shoes, doing the asphalt patching.
Are they still doing that?
That was last week.
Okay.
But next week is a whole nother story.
Probably.
So I'm wondering, who is supervising and observing what's going on? It all looks...
We don't. That I can tell you. Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve Price. I'm General Counsel. Oddly, I live in any of the same issues I have. It's been 3 weeks, and we most certainly have heard from the community, not just in Riverside, but other places, of the ongoing concerns. And to the point where we were shutting them down. You can't? No. I guess the mic's not, oh, there we are. I will talk this way. Most certainly, the director's been very hard on TDS in terms of a lot of the complaints that we've got. We've made them aware of that to the point where the CEO from TDS and his project team, they flew out, they met with President Goldthorpe, the director, myself, the deputy director, Gary Inselman, our chief of staff as well. And I'd like to address the first point because it happened to me where they just come in and they start tearing up my lawn and landscaping. And at least I know the right questions to ask. And then at that point, they gave me no notice, and there was no door knockers. There was no knock on the door. They just did it. And so we had a conversation with them that they would start employing going forward a community outreach. One is with the city council and the mayor, that they would be required before we would issue a permit, before they could start digging, that they had to make assurance that they had done an outreach to all the neighbors to show, well, there should be, this is 3 weeks ago, and they committed to us that they would do that, and they've since, I believe, sent their protocols. They did meet with the city of Garden City, I do know that. But those were conditions before we any additional permits, and they've come to a halt. Now, one of the problems that has happened is we have supervised their work, and they had a contractor, it was Quantum, you probably remember Quantum, and they weren't meeting the specification on depth of the fiber. It's supposed to be 36 inches, and they were doing it much shallower. And so our inspectors caught them and made them, and they have to redo it, and they have to get it at the right depth. So that's why there's been a lot of rework that's been done because of the work that was not performed properly the first time. But I most certainly understand a lot of the temporary asphalt in the sidewalk. There's been a concrete shortage within the market, so it's but they are going back. I did see where they're putting in concrete. They're taking out the asphalt and replacing that. The other issue that they have failed to do is provide temporary ADA facilities during their construction, and they've also made a commitment to do that. We continue to get complaints. The director is currently working with staff, and we did get a request from TDS that they could go forward, and we said no, not until they get all their work done. And you know, hopefully this will go with the right protocols, and we are watching them, and we're sending any complaints on to their headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin. But they right now they can't issue any. We won't issue any more permits until they get their work complete.
One thing you mentioned was repair work. I observed just last week them digging, and I sent the picture to Jim and several of you, showing that they were digging a 2-foot trench next to an existing 2-foot trench they had just dug earlier in the week because they had misgauged the size. So they were literally digging alongside of what they had just done, and again, digging and patching. So somebody's not watching what they're doing.
It really speaks to the contractor and their employees.
Okay.
Ms. Gossett, you need to make sure you speak into the
Okay, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I can hear you better than I could hear Steve, though.
Okay. Other questions. Restoration. What are the plans to restore our roads, sidewalks, lawns, and plantings?
One of the issues, there's a utility easement in the plat, at least within your area, and they have a right to go in and do work. And they're supposed to restore that landscaping. They did in my yard, and they did in neighbors' yards, but really the big miscommunication is that they don't go tell the people that they actually have a right to be there, and to show them and let them know what work's going to be done, and to see if they can mitigate some of the landscape disruption, but also to go back and make sure that they try and replace it. Again, they have a legal right to be within that easement. It's on them. It's not on ACHD to make sure they get the landscaping put back. It's not within our right-of-way. But at the same time, we're most certainly very conscious and encouraging the contractor to get the work done right.
Well, I've got a picture I just took this afternoon that shows some of their handiwork.
Is there still an auditorium issue?
Can't hear me or can't hear him. You can take this picture. Just taken this afternoon. And my last, fourth question, pothole repair. Every road cut has the potential to develop future potholes in Riverside Village due to freezing and thawing. Has ACHD budgeted for these repairs? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Sure.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
One of my grandkids could do better than that.
Enter your participant ID followed by... You are in the meeting now. There are 9 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you. So you can go ahead with repeat your question and all on the potholes.
Potholes?
Okay, so that is within our jurisdiction, and we have a team of project inspectors that review the work to make sure that the compaction meets our standards. We do all that in terms of meeting our specifications to make sure that there's no degradation to the roadway surface, the sidewalk facilities, or bike lanes. And so if they do pull a permit, they meet those specifications. If there are potholes, it falls within our ordinary maintenance, and that's just the way that it is. We don't foresee any, if they meet our standards, that we'll have those problems.
Who do we call?
This young lady right here. But we do have a pothole report line, and you report the potholes, and we have a commitment to have those filled within 24 hours.
And then my last question is, when is the end date? This has been going on for over 15 months.
Well, I just heard that Meridian's their next pit stop, so I don't have any idea what their end date is, but not really sure anyone does at this point. In your neighborhood, there is an end date. Don't know what it is, but as soon as they get all their damage remediated, they're done.
And Mr. Price, you mentioned about communications. Yes, we've had lots of communications. I have a stack here of 38 pieces. And this is only half of what has filled our mailboxes and on door hangers from TDS Fiber advertising. It's very irritating.
They're probably wondering why you haven't signed up yet.
And they've even had people come to our doors asking why we haven't signed up.
Oh, no.
And I said, what part of no do you not understand?
So much for being a smart aleck, huh?
Well, we would appreciate your attendance to this issue.
Oh, yes. Trust me.
I could tell you it's very much at the forefront of the director and the executive team's mission is to help do this. But we have our limitations, but at the same time, it's very difficult. The fact that they had shoddy work, they fired their contractor, they've now got Probst, which you see in the neighborhood. They're having to go back and rework. I had a lot of equipment parked in the front of my house, as well as a porta potty that was there for probably 8 months. So most certainly I understand where you're coming from, probably better than you think. I feel the same way as you do. And I can assure you that we're doing everything we can to make it very real for this entity that they need to address the public's concerns.
But there is no end date.
I can find out and let you know when they're going to get out of Riverside.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
I have one question for you, Steve. What are they doing with the private roads in there?
I don't know.
We don't want to know either.
I don't want to know. We got enough with our own roads. Thank you.
Thanks, okay. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.
All right, if there's no other public communications, I'll declare this meeting adjourned.
So I don't get to make my speech?
What?
I don't get to make my speech? I can,
You're so bad.
The press release to go out, people in the office. Behind them or changing them however you want.